How many times have you sent a message waiting for that perfect response but it never comes? The truth is, the first message can make or break everything. It's the gateway to a conversation that could determine whether you stand out or get ignored. But here's the problem. Most people send generic messages that fail to spark any interest or curiosity. Maybe you've tried phrases like, "Hey, how are you?" or "What's up?" And while polite, they don't create the impact you're aiming for. In this video, I'm going to share 5 strategies that actually work for crafting the perfect first message. One that grabs her attention and builds a genuine connection. We'll break down, step by step, how you can turn a boring message into something memorable, something that makes her want to reply. So, if you're tired of being left on read or struggling to figure out how to start a meaningful conversation, stick with me. This is exactly what you need to change your approach and start seeing real results. Let's face it, most people start conversations with the same boring, generic messages. You know the ones I'm talking about: "Hey, what's up?" or the infamous "How are you?" These messages aren't bad, but here's the problem. They're completely forgettable. They don't stand out, and they definitely don't spark curiosity. Think about this for a moment. If you're scrolling through your phone and see a message like, "Hey," does it really make you want to reply? Probably not. And it's not because you're rude or uninterested. It's just that there's nothing exciting or meaningful in that message to grab your attention. This is where most people go wrong. Generic messages don't create any emotional response. They don't make the person on the other side feel special or intrigued. And here's the harsh truth. If the person you're messaging gets a lot of attention, your message will get lost in a sea of identical, uninspired texts. So what happens next? You're left waiting, staring at your screen, hoping for a reply that might never come. And let's be real, that feeling sucks. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck in this cycle of boring conversations. Imagine this instead. You send a message that makes the other person smile, laugh, or think, "Wow, this person is different." A message that stands out, grabs their attention, and makes them want to reply immediately. That's the power of crafting intentional, personalized messages. These are the kinds of messages that spark curiosity and connection. And here's the best part. They're not complicated to write. With the right approach, you can turn a simple opening line into something memorable, something that makes you stand out. So, if you're tired of being ignored or blending in with the crowd, stay with me. In this video, we're going to break free from the generic hate and dive into creating standout first messages. Messages that actually work, messages that make a difference. Now, let's move to the first strategy, the personalized hook. This is where it all begins. Let's talk about the first strategy, the personalized hook. This is where you step up your game and show that you've put thought into your message. Most people send the same bland messages to everyone, but a personalized hook instantly sets you apart. Why? Because it shows you've paid attention, and attention is attractive. Imagine this. You're messaging someone who loves traveling. Instead of sending a generic, "Hi, how are you?" you could say something like, "I saw your photo from Bali. It looks like an amazing trip. What was your favorite part of it?" That one detail changes everything. It shows effort, curiosity, and interest in something they care about. And that's the key. You're making the conversation about them, not just about you. Here's another example. Let's say their profile mentions that they love music. Instead of saying, "What kind of music do you like?" which is still pretty standard, you could say, "Your love for indie rock is showing. What's your go-to band right now?" You've added a playful tone and personalized the question, making it much more engaging. Think about how receiving a message like that feels. It's refreshing, isn't it? It makes the other person stop and think, "Wow, this isn't just another random message." Personalized hooks make people feel seen and valued, and that's incredibly powerful. But how do you find the details to personalize your message? Look at their profile, photos, or anything they've shared. It could be a hobby, a favorite destination, or even something subtle like a quote in their bio. The trick is to pick something specific and make it the focus of your message. Now, let's address the hesitation some people have about personalizing messages. You might think, what if I come across as trying too hard? But the reality is, personalization isn't about trying hard. It's about trying smart. A well-crafted message doesn't look desperate, it looks intentional. And intentionality is attractive. So, instead of blending in with generic texts, stand out by being specific, curious, and genuine. Personalized hooks are your way of saying, "I see you and I'm interested in who you really are." And that's something no generic message can ever achieve. Now that you've got the idea of a personalized hook, let's move on to the next strategy, where we'll talk about keeping your messages short, engaging, and impossible to ignore. Now that you understand the power of a personalized hook, let's move on to the second strategy, keeping your messages short and engaging. here's the truth. Long messages can feel overwhelming, especially at the start of a conversation. Imagine this: someone sends you a massive paragraph about their life story or why they want to talk to you. It might seem genuine, but it also feels like a lot of effort to respond to. And in today's fast-paced world, effort is something people tend to avoid in casual chats. So, how do you keep your messages short without losing their impact? It's all about precision and curiosity. Instead of overloading your message with details, focus on saying just enough to pique their interest. Let me give you an example. Say you're talking to someone who loves movies. Instead of saying, "Hi, I saw your profile and noticed you love movies. I think that's great because I also enjoy watching films. What's your favorite movie and why?" Which is long and unnecessarily complicated. You could say, "What's the one movie you'd recommend to someone who's never watched a single film?" That shorter message is direct, intriguing, and leaves plenty of room for the other person to respond. It invites them to share something meaningful without feeling overwhelmed. Here's another example. If their profile mentions they're into hiking, you don't need to write a long story about your hiking experiences. Instead, you could say, "What's the most challenging trail you've ever done?" It's simple, relevant, and opens the door for an engaging reply. But what if you feel like you have a lot to say? Here's the trick: break your thoughts into smaller messages. Instead of sending a long paragraph, send a concise opener, wait for their response, and then build on it. For example, if you want to share a connection over music, you could start with, "I saw you're into indie rock. What's your favorite band right now?" Once they reply, you can follow up with, "Nice choice. Have you been to any of their concerts? I saw them live once and it was unforgettable." This approach keeps the conversation dynamic and prevents it from feeling one-sided. Another reason short messages work is that they're easier to process. Think about it. When you're scrolling through your phone, a short, intriguing message is much more likely to grab your attention than a lengthy, rambling one. Short messages also show confidence. You're not over-explaining or trying to fill the space with words. You're giving just enough to start a conversation and letting them take it from there. So, here's your takeaway. When it comes to text game, less is often more. Keep your messages short, direct, and engaging. Focus on sparking curiosity and leaving room for them to reply. When you master this, your conversations will feel effortless, and the other person will want to keep talking to you. Now, let's move to the third strategy: how adding a touch of humor can completely transform your text game. Adding a touch of humor to your text game is one of the most effective ways to stand out. Humor breaks the ice, makes conversations enjoyable, and helps create a connection that feels natural. The best part? You don't need to be a comedian to use it well. It's not about telling jokes, it's about being playful and showing you don't take yourself too seriously. For example, instead of opening with something generic like, "Hi, how's it going?" you could say, "Quick question. Is it a requirement to have such a cool profile picture, or are you just raising the bar for the rest of us?" This kind of message is lighthearted, engaging, and sets a fun tone right away. Another great way to use humor is by playfully teasing. If their profile mentions they're into hiking, you could say, "Serious question, do you hike for the views or just for the Instagram pictures?" Be honest. It's cheeky but harmless, and it shows that you've taken the time to notice something about them. Or if their bio says they're into fitness, you might say, "I'll bet you're the type who wakes up at 5 a.m. to run. Please tell me I'm wrong so I don't feel so lazy." Humor can also be a great way to keep the conversation moving if things start to slow down. Let's say they mention they love coffee. You could reply with, "So, are you a 1 cup a day type, or are you single-handedly keeping Starbucks in business?" These playful comments don't just keep the conversation alive, they also make you more memorable. But timing is everything when it comes to humor. Use it to lighten the mood when things start to feel too serious or formal. For example, if you're in the middle of a back and forth about work, you could throw in something like, "Okay, but if you could quit tomorrow and get paid to nap professionally, would you take the offer?" "I know I would." It's unexpected and it shifts the focus back to something fun. Now, you might be wondering, what if the other person doesn't get your humor? The key is to keep it simple and universal. Avoid overly complicated jokes or ones that rely on inside knowledge. Stick to playful observations, gentle teasing, or relatable scenarios. For example, "You seem like someone who always wins at trivia. Please tell me I'm wrong so I can keep my ego intact." This kind of humor is low risk but highly effective. Another tip is to match your humor to the tone of the conversation. If they're more reserved, you can keep it subtle, like, "You're giving off major secret agent vibes. Should I be worried?" On the other hand, if they're already playful, you can go a little bolder, like, "I feel like you have the kind of laugh that could make anyone's bad day better." True or false? The beauty of humor is that it creates emotional connections. People may not remember every word you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And laughter? That's one of the best feelings you can evoke. Even if the conversation doesn't lead to anything serious, leaving them with a smile ensures they'll think of you positively. Here's the bottom line: humor isn't about impressing, it's about making the conversation feel light and enjoyable. It's a way to show that you're confident, approachable, and fun to talk to. So, experiment with adding playful touches to your messages. You'll be surprised at how much of a difference it makes. Now, let's move on to why avoiding the need to impress might actually be the key to building real attraction.